I was Shunmubai's white moonlight, and also the person he hated most. When we were 7, he held my hand while we played house and said I would be his bride. At 17, he slipped a handmade ring onto my finger and swore he would love me for the rest of his life. At 27, he wrapped his fingers around my throat and asked why I hadn't died yet. To punish me, Shunmubai stopped paying my father's medical bills and had my mother locked in a psychiatric hospital. Yet when I truly wanted to die, he said he regretted it. On the day I was released from prison, Shunmubai flung a thick wad of cash in my face. He looked at me as if I were garbage. Song Nanxiao, why aren't you dead yet? I didn't answer. I bent down and picked the bills up one by one. When I reached the last note, he stepped on it. Pick it up on your knees. I hesitated only a second before dropping to my knees. 3 years in prison had already ground away every shred of my pride. I was no longer the little princess the Song family doted on, nor the white moonlight Shunmubai once cherished. If kneeling like a dog would let me survive, I would crawl into the dust. Look at yourself, absolutely disgusting. A black Range Rover pulled up in front of the villa. Su Xinyu, wearing a red dress, hopped out and looped her arm through Shunmubai's with practiced ease. Aren't you supposed to take me to lunch? Let's go. The noon sun was blinding. I watched Su Xinyu and for a moment, saw the girl I had been at 17, the year Shunmubai loved me most. Now he had given that love to another girl who looked like me. Why is she kneeling here? And why is she staring at me like that? She's Mrs. Shen. Of course she belongs here, but people fresh out of prison bring bad luck. First we wash off the stench. Shunmubai lifted his hand, and a basin of ice-cold water splashed over me. I knelt soaked, clutching the money so tightly my fingers cramped. While I was inside, I'd learned my father was sick. I needed the cash. Apparently my meekness bored him. Shunmubai wrapped an arm around Su Xinyu and walked away. I stepped into the home I had lived in for 23 years, now registered under Shunmubai's name. Nothing had changed, yet nothing was the same. Don't be angry, Miss Song, said Aunt Zhao, toweling me dry. I laughed bitterly. I no longer had the right to be angry. Aunt Zhao, how are my parents? In prison they were all I worried about. Aunt Zhao's eyes flickered with something complicated. After you were arrested, Mr. Song fell ill from the shock. When the medical bills went unpaid, he passed away. Your mother, poor thing, suffered one blow after another. Her mind snapped. She's in a sanatorium. The words struck like lightning. The day I was taken away, I thought taking the blame would atone for everything. Once Shunmubai's anger cooled, my parents would be safe. But why? Why had it come to this? I clutched Aunt Zhao's hand. You're lying, right? My father can't be dead. Shunmubai promised me. The father who had carried me on his shoulders, who'd bought me every luxury and made me his princess. How could he be gone? Aunt Zhao said nothing. She only drew her hand away. 3 years can change everything. Shunmubai had swallowed the Song group whole, becoming a titan of industry, wealth, fame, women, power, all in his grasp. And I, Song Nanxiao, was left with a ruined family and nothing at all. I sat in the living room until midnight before Shunmubai returned, drunk. A faint, sweet jasmine clung to him, the scent I once loved most. Shunmubai, how are my parents? The lights were off. Moonlight coated him, his eyes glacial. He's dead. Deserved it. Song Nanxiao, don't forget. This is what you and your father owe me. My sister died on a hospital bed just as desperate. I lowered my head. My hands trembled uncontrollably. And my mother? I want to see her. She's mad. He stepped past me, loosening his tie, eyes mocking. You want to see her? Then beg. Many years ago, when he snatched my doll, he'd said the same thing. Back then I pretended to be angry, and he crouched to coax me. That would never happen again. I knelt before him, bowing my head until it touched the floor. Shunmubai, I beg you, let me see my mother. She's the only family I have left. I've paid my debt. Don't hurt her anymore. You're so cheap. Sudden fury flashed in his eyes. He seized my throat. 3 lousy years. Will that bring my sister back? You should be dead. I'll never forgive you. Every single day you live will hurt more than mine. He flung me to the floor. My head struck the coffee table, yet my eyes fastened on the ring that had fallen from his pocket. After he left, I crawled over and picked it up. On my 17th birthday, Shunmubai had climbed through my window at midnight and pulled this ring from his pocket. He'd slipped it onto my finger himself. It had been too large and slid off. Embarrassed, he promised someday he'd give me the biggest, brightest diamond. Now sobbing, I tried to push the ring onto my finger again. It caught at the second knuckle. 3 years of labor had swollen my joints, roughened my skin. The ring of youth could never fit again. Nothing could ever go back. When he sobered up, Shunmubai agreed to take me to my mother. A sardonic smile playing on his lips. Don't regret it, he warned. After 3 hours, we reached a remote asylum. Tall walls, oppressive air. Through the glass, I saw her at once. Gaunt, haggard, no trace of the elegant lady she had been. Mom. I threw myself against the window, tears streaming. She stared blankly, then slowly stretched out a hand. Chow chow. Years of pain burst out. I wept uncontrollably. I longed to throw myself into her arms, to pour out every grievance. But the next moment her palm cracked across my face. Again and again, she grabbed my hair, screaming, "You killed your father. Why did you have to love Shinmubai? Why did you give yourself to him? You ruined the songs. I hate you, I hate you." Orderlies dragged her away and bandaged the scratches she'd left on my arms. I felt nothing. I simply stared at her, bewildered. The mother who once called me her precious darling. How had she become this? "Are you satisfied now, Song Nanqiao? What's wrong with her?" Mad. She watched your father die in front of her, watched the Song Empire collapse. A pampered noblewoman. How could she endure it? Shinmubai savored my agony like a devil. I had no more tears. What crime had I committed to deserve such torment? I had only loved Shinmubai and wanted to marry him. Back at the villa, I ran a high fever. In my delirium, I saw Shinmubai at 17, the happiest year of my life. Shinmubai and his sister, Mushua, always fled their strict household to play at mine. Mushua teased me, calling me her future sister-in-law, promising we'd be together every day after the wedding. My parents never objected. They planned the grandest ceremony for their only daughter, but the wedding we had dreamed of for years destroyed everything. Dressed in my most beautiful gown, I married the man I loved. In the middle of the banquet came news. Mushua was dead. That day Shinmubai looked at me with nothing but hatred. In a single day I lost my best friend, my beloved, my home, my parents. The bridal chamber strewn with red double happiness, characters became a cold prison, my body bruised by fists. The guests' blessings turned to sneers. I woke gasping, my skull splitting. Wrapping a coat around myself, I went downstairs for water and walked straight into Shinmubai kissing Su Sinyu. "Stop, Mrs. Shin might be upset." Su Sinyu leaned against him, taunting me, but I was no longer the girl who would pout and sulk. Pain had numbed me. I poured a glass. Shinmubai snatched it away. "Don't play the pitiful card. Look at yourself." Utterly revolting. The room spun. I nearly collapsed. Instinctively he reached, then jerked back as if burned. "Song Nanqiao, don't act wronged. You murdered my sister for the title of Mrs. Shun. Now you'll wear that title and suffer for the rest of your life." I couldn't help laughing. His temper hadn't changed since we were young. The Song family was nouveau riche, no match for the Shin dynasty yet. I looked at him. I never cared about the title. I only loved the Shinmubai who would defy the world for me. Soon he devised new torments. He brought my mother to the villa. One glimpse of me sent her into a frenzy. She tried to kill me. Orderlies restrained her, but her curses echoed. "Why didn't you die instead of your father? If you were alive, the Songs wouldn't have fallen. You went to prison for a man. Why couldn't you die for your dad? You should be the one dead. Hysterical shrieks filled the hall. I had no words. For the first time I thought, maybe it should have been me. Shinmubai came to my side. "Hear that? You're the one who should die. If I died, would it make you happy?" He stared at me for several seconds, then turned away without answering. Although my mother and I both lived in the villa, Shinmubai covered none of our expenses. I had to find work. After countless rejections, I understood. My once prized degree meant nothing beside my criminal record. No legitimate firm would hire an embezzler. Finally, the manager of a luxury hotel studied my face and offered me a waitress position. It was the same hotel where Shinmubai had once spent fortunes on my birthdays. Champagne towers, roses, gifts piled wall to wall. Now I carried trays past private rooms, feeling as though lifetimes had passed. Shinmubai still lavished everything on the girl he loved. Only the girl was no longer me. "What are you doing here? Trying to ruin Sinyu's birthday by disgusting me." The 8-tiered cake blocked my way, and splashes of scalding hot soup burned my hands. When the last dish was served, I bowed and tried to leave, but Su Sinyu was suddenly displeased. She tugged off the diamond ring on her finger and tossed it aside. "It's my birthday, only once a year, Shinmubai. You have to make it up to me." Her willful, pampered manner was exactly like mine back then. I watched Shinmubai coax her patiently, then lift a bottle of wine and pour it over my head. "Don't be angry. I'll make her bark like a dog. Will that amuse you?" I can't quite remember how I survived the rest of that night. Someone pried my mouth open and forced fiery foreign liquor down my throat. It scorched a path to my lungs. Then hands shoved me face first into the cake. Cloying cream smothered my face. The sweetness clogged my nose until I couldn't breathe. When Su Sinyu finally tired of the game, I was abandoned like trash. Grubby hands groped me, laughter ringing in my ears. Panic surged, but I lacked even the strength to stand. In that moment of despair, a voice cracked through the room. "Stop!" A figure rushed in, draped a coat coat over me and helped me to the sofa. My vision swam. Shin Mubai? In high school, I'd once sneaked out the back gate for street kebabs, only to run into a gang of drunk thugs. Shin Mubai had dropped from nowhere to shield me. From that day, he swore he would protect me forever. Whenever I was in danger, he would appear at once. I struggled to raise my head, desperate to see. A tear fell onto my skin. Song Nanxiao, how did you reduce yourself to this? It wasn't Shin Mubai. I'd almost forgotten. He hates me. Why would he protect me? Ding Yuran took me to her apartment, fed me antidotes for alcohol, and bathed me with painstaking care. She cried the entire time, tears like an open tap. Su Xinyu posted your video online. Who does she think she is, some bar girl? Shin Mubai must be blind. I wanted to collapse into Ding Yuran's arms and sob, but the last shred of sanity made me stagger to my feet. Yuran, stay away from me from now on. I'm not the Song Nanxiao you once knew. I don't want to drag you down. Song Nanxiao, when I was bullied back then, you stood up for me. Let me help you now. Can you tell me what really happened? How did you and Shin Mubai end up like this? My head throbbed. Many memories were blurred, but the things I tried hardest to forget flooded back like a bursting dam. I clutched my skull, whispering, I have to atone. Back then, only Shin Mushua in the Shin family supported Shin Mubai and me. Everyone else wanted him to marry a poised heiress. Whenever my parents sounded out Mr. Shin, they received only vague replies. Yet the grievances of the older generation never touched Shin Mubai and me. We climbed hills to watch sunrises, sneaked out to drive to the sea. Our childhood sweetheart love was the envy of all. Then an accident changed everything. Mr. Shen's investment failed. The capital chain snapped. The Shen dynasty had long been in decline. My father agreed to inject funds, on the condition that Shin Mubai marry me, and the Shens throw a grand wedding to declare me their daughter-in-law. He wanted to erase past humiliations and secure my lifelong happiness. What I didn't know was how far the Shens had fallen. The money for our wedding had been siphoned from the fund for Mushua's heart transplant surgery. On the day of our ceremony, Mushua died alone in the hospital. When Shin Mubai learned the news, he smashed every piece of furniture in the bridal suite. His eyes were no longer soft. They accused me. Your vanity killed my sister. She was the only one in the Shin family who ever loved me. I wanted to say I didn't know. I wanted to say I loved her too. But Shin Mubai wouldn't listen. He stormed out and never came home that night. From that evening on, he became a stranger who regarded me with nothing but icy hatred. No more lovingly packed lunches. No more starlit drives. Only a broken record. Why didn't you die instead? I didn't know what I'd done wrong. I only knew the wedding dress on my body, the diamond on my finger, every sweet thing I'd thought I possessed, were evidence of my guilt. With my father's help, the Shin family rose again. Shin Mubai took over the company and soared. To clear his name, he embezzled public funds. To atone, I concealed the truth and took the fall, spending 3 years in prison. How stupid I was. 3 years could not resurrect Mushua. They only gave another woman the chance to replace me, relying on a 5-point resemblance. Su Xinyu seized every ounce of love I had once craved. It's not your fault. I gave Ding Yuran a bitter smile. When feelings and interests are tangled together, who can tell right from wrong? I don't know who's to blame. The one still breathing is me, so I must bear Shin Mubai's wrath. During the 1,000+ nights behind bars, I naively believed our childhood bond would soften him, that we might reconcile. But a man like him loves fiercely and hates just as hard. He lost his closest kin. My family was ruined. Shin Mubai will never forgive me, and I no longer dare to love him. After changing clothes at Ding Yuran's, I said goodbye. I wouldn't drag the innocent into this feud. Back at the villa, I found my mother alone in the living room, clutching the photo of our family of 3. One moment she cried, the next she laughed. My good girl is home, come eat. Mom made your favorite lotus root and pork rib soup. Go call your father. It's late and he's still working. She rose and walked toward the dining table, then froze, staring at the house that was both familiar and alien. He's dead. The family's gone. All because of you. She hurled the frame at me. Glass exploded across the floor. Dropping to her knees, she shielded the photo like a broken child. Save him, save him. He was good to all of you. Shards sliced her arms bloody. I thought I would go mad too. Ignoring the glass, I hauled her up. Mom, hate me if you want. Just stop hurting yourself. Blood soaked my sleeves. She stared like a guilty toddler, then stroked my cheek with her bleeding hand. Suddenly, she snatched a fruit knife from the table and lunged. You deserve to die, I'll kill you. Aunt Zhao shoved her aside. The blade still carved a long gash down my arm. Orderlies rushed in and sedated my mother. Aunt Zhao's face twisted with heartache. The study door swung open and Shin Mubai stepped out. He looked at the blood on my body and smiled coldly. Who do you think you're fooling with that pitiful act? If you've any guts, go die for real. He was about to add a few more taunts when a message on his phone made him rush out. The only person who could make Shin Mubai drop everything was Su Su Sinyu. The nurse told me mother's condition was unstable and that I must stay away for the moment, or her illness would worsen. I stood there dazed. The mother who had cried all night before my wedding, unable to bear the thought of letting me go. Why didn't she want to see me now? Everyone hated me. If I died, would they all be free? Before I knew it, I was on the balcony. The night breeze woke me. I curled into a ball. I still didn't want to die. I couldn't let them go. I don't know how long I crouched there. Then a commotion exploded downstairs. Even through the thick walls, I could feel Shin Mubai's fury. He burst into my room, seized my throat without a word. This time he truly meant to kill me. You killed my sister, and now you want to kill Sinyu too? Why did you send her taunting texts? Why spread rumors that she's a mistress? She nearly slit her wrist tonight. Do you know that? I couldn't breathe, yet I didn't struggle at all. Let me die. Let it end. A second before I blacked out, he let go. He tore the ring I'd hidden beneath my collarbone and snapped the chain. You still dare keep this? He flung the ring away, then wiped his hands as though contaminated. Stay away from her. If anything happens, I'll make you wish you'd never been born. The ring that had once witnessed our brightest days, my love, vanished into the night. I felt only regret. I should have jumped earlier, because I was already living a fate worse than death. I wrapped a silk scarf around the bruises on my neck and went to work as usual. The manager said an important guest wanted to see me. I pushed open the door and met Su Sinyu's smiling face. I thought Shin Mubai would finish you off, she said, stepping close and tugging away my scarf. What a pity. I have everything now, except the title of Mrs. Shun. Why don't you die and give it back to me? I said nothing. Su Sinyu studied me calmly and began a story. On the night of your wedding, Shin Mubai met me in a bar. I was just a hostess, laughing among rich men, but this face of mine caught his eye. All the nights he refused to come home afterward he spent with me. Later he learned I owed loan sharks. To save me he embezzled company money. He called it redemption. He didn't have enough, so he dipped into the song accounts. Let me guess, did he tell you he wanted to make a comeback, to prove himself, and that you owed him, so you took the fall? I thought my heart was already calloused, yet her words carved it raw. He's given me fame and fortune these years, but without the title Mrs. Shun I'll never escape my past as a bar girl. As long as you live, his and my story will never be perfect. So will you die for me? My throat scraped like sandpaper. All right, I whispered. I drifted home in a daze. To my surprise, Shin Mubai was waiting. Without a word he slapped me. Why did you sneak off to see Sinyu again? Because I don't want to die. He gave a short icy laugh. Then go ahead, die. Stop pretending you're the victim. Don't forget you killed my sister, and now you're hurting Sinyu. The word die triggered mother. Held back by nurses, she still spat and threw anything within reach. The porcelain doll I'd given her, the handmade vase Shin Mubai and I had crafted, everything shattered. I should have died long ago. I tried to find one reason to stay alive, but everyone around me wished me dead. So I picked up the fruit knife and without hesitation, drove it into my chest. How wonderful it would be to die. When I woke on the hospital bed, that was still my first thought. Unfortunately, I couldn't even die properly. Time seemed to have frozen 3 years ago. They bound me to the bed. The doctor said I suffered severe depression with acute suicidal tendencies. I had to stay for psychotherapy. I was locked away, allowed to see only the assigned psychiatrist. Mother, Shin Mubai, Aunt Zhao, Ding Yuran, even Su Sinyu. No one visited. I lay alone, feeling life ebb in the hush of night. Suddenly I thought of Shin Mushiwa. What had she been thinking as she died? No answer came, but Shin Mubai did. I had never seen him like this, thin, haggard, as if he were the one dying. He slapped himself twice hard, then fell to his knees beside me. Xiao Xiao, I'm sorry. He begged me to live, swearing none of it had ever been my fault. Ding Yuran had found the nurse who had cared for Mushiwa and brought back a yellowed suicide note. Every word bled. Mushiwa had written of a life never her own. Schoolwork, marriage, pawned from one interest to another. She envied Shin Mubai and me, begged us to be happy in her stead, and chose a dignified death for herself. The Shin family used her death to plant a barb in Shin Mubai's heart, one that forever wedged between us, making us love and hate in equal measure. Shin Mubai looked at me with wet eyes. I confronted your father. He admitted everything. He said it was all for you, so you could have a secure future and the Shin Empire wouldn't fall to the songs. Xiao Xiao, none of this was ever your fault. Live, please. Mr. Shun had twisted the truth, shifting the blame onto my father and me. Our wedding hadn't caused Mushiwa's death. It had been my father's proof of love, a show of strength to dispel rumors of the Shin family's bankruptcy. The Shin family repaid that kindness with betrayal. Ding Yuran had tracked down Mushiwa's attending physician. The buried truth finally surfaced. I found it ironic. If none of it was my fault, what were all those years of torture? My dead father, my mad mother, what were they? Can you give my family back? I asked. I'm sorry, I truly don't know. Then forget everything. Let's start over. I'll make the Shin family pay. Ding Yuran had uncovered in a few months what had imprisoned me for years. Had Shin Mubai been blinded by grief, or had he simply needed someone to punish? The excuses I tried to weave for him unraveled. In the tangle of love and interest, Mushiwa was abandoned by the Shen family, and I was abandoned by Shin Mubai. I finally understood how much Mushiwa had suffered before death. Death, it turned out, really is the only release. Shin Mubai refused to let me die. Each day I swallowed pills like clockwork, then stared blankly out the window. I fantasized about every possible way to die, but none succeeded. Shin Mubai exhausted himself trying to amuse me. He dug up the treasure box we'd buried beneath a tree when we were children. 20 years had rusted the lock. Inside were gems I'd pried off mother's old dress, paper cranes I'd folded, a photo of the three of us. At the very bottom lay a withered grass ring. At 7, during make-believe weddings, I had said, "Be my bride." Shin Mubai wept uncontrollably. He had found the silver ring from when we were 17. "Let me put it on you, all right?" That ring had once outshone every diamond in my eyes, but I can't wear it anymore. From 17 to 27, it has never fit. As though we were never meant to be, Shin Mubai cradled my hand and sobbed. I wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. "I don't like this place. Let's go home." He looked at me as if granted a miracle. After the doctors confirmed my wounds had healed, he discharged me at once. We moved into a new house and lived the life I once dreamed of. Shin Mubai stayed by my side every day, desperate to lay the world at my feet. Mother continued treatment under Aunt Zhao's care. Su Xingyu vanished. Time slipped by, bland and quiet, as if none of it had ever happened. I grew less and less inclined to move, spending whole days curled on the sofa, staring into space. Memories slithered around me like poisonous snakes. I saw my father, eyes brimming with tears, placing my hand into Shin Mubai's, then dying alone on a hospital bed, my name on his lips with his last breath. I saw my mother weeping as she sent me off to my wedding, then kneeling on the ground, kowtowing to me, begging me to die. Then one day, I thought of Shin Mushu, of the blessing she'd left us before she died. We were supposed to be happy. What is it? Nothing. I smiled at Shin Mubai. "I want the udon noodles you make." He exhaled in relief and hurried off, excited to gather the ingredients. The moment he turned away, I stepped off the rooftop. We had known each other for 20 years. Shin Mubai had long since fused into my life. Even if I flayed my skin and broke every bone, I could never scrape him out. Yet I could never forget my parents who loved me more than life itself. All the tangled past dissolved on the wind, love and hate, right and wrong cut off at once. I could find no reason to go on living. I wanted only death, and the freedom it would buy me.